Using the new Gilded Transfers by Iron Orchid Designs, I created these two shelves that I picked up at a thrift shop a long time ago, and they've been sitting in my basement. So I had a few ideas. I painted them white at first, and then when this transfer came out, I was really inspired to do something with black. So using the Etiquettes transfer, I looked at my space and was trying to figure out which size was best for the shelf that I was using. And these are small signage pieces. There's 4 sheets on this one. And so I was looking for something that was kind of tall and narrow, and this Laurel one was perfect size. So I just cut it out. Now, what I wanted to point out here is when you're using transfers, they have a backing, a white sheet that is kind of a protective sheet in the back of the actual transfer itself. You want to cut that and make sure that you're keeping that on as you are maneuvering the transfer around so that it does not stick to where you don't want it to stick to. Once you found your space, you remove that backing and just like I'm doing here, pressing it on and kind of burnishing it with my hand at first, and then you'll use the rubbing tool to remove or actually let the transfer release from the transfer paper. Now these are a little different than the original transfers by Iron Orchid Designs. They work pretty much the same way, but the gold on the paper and the gold of the transfer is slightly different. And so as you're releasing it, this is why it took me a little bit longer, but I really probably didn't need to rub it as much as I was. I just didn't realize that it was releasing as quickly. So this is the first time I'm using it and just trying to figure out how they work, but they are magnificent, and the gold is absolutely stunning. It's released off of the actual paper, I like to usually use the backing and just press it or smooth it out. These are a little bit more delicate, so I just actually used my hand to press it down and make sure that it made good contact with the painted piece. Now I'm just looking at the different sizes for my second shelf, figuring out which one, and here I'm going to use 2 different sizes, and I will put them on top of each other, layered, not layered, but one at the higher part of the shelf, and just using 2 to cover the space instead of just 1. So just trying to figure out which layout I like best. I thought maybe the bigger one at top, but then I decided to switch it up. And again, I'll remove that white backing and then place it down. Now here, after I placed it down, I was like, oh no, I think I need to just scooch it over a little bit, and luckily it did not adhere too much to the piece, and I was able to pull it up and move it. But sometimes it can get stuck to that, and sometimes you have to maybe just scrape off a little bit if you've placed it down too soon. So again, using the rubbing tool, I'm just releasing this transfer from the actual transfer paper and releasing it onto the painted piece. This next part is kind of a fun little bonus that you get with these transfers. So the metallized product by Farmhouse Paint is something that is used with the foils that we sell. And so what I'm doing here is I'm using a rough chip brush, and I got some of the metallized, very little bit on the tips of my brush here. And you can see I kind of put some, and then I offload it onto the cardboard next to my project, and then I'm just slightly dry brushing the edges, and then I'm actually going to just dry brush over the actual transfer itself, and just adding a little bit of extra gold to this project. It will be kind of my goal. So here you can see this is the transfer that I released onto a tray that I had used earlier. And there's lots of gold still left on this paper. And so what you do is you let your metallized dry. It's about 15 minutes and it'll turn clear, but it's still tacky. And then if you've ever used metal leafing or foils, it's the same process. You use I call it a shimmer brush. It's by Farmhouse Paint. and I lay the piece of transfer over top of the metalize and brush on where the foil is being used, and it will release onto that metalize because the metalize is now tacky. And it makes a real fun little bonus that you get with this transfer set, and you can reuse these until you've removed all the gold from these pieces that are really just pieces that you typically would throw away, but it'll give you a little extra that you can use. And so you'll see the finished product, it really added a little fun kind of texture to these pieces. Last step is just putting a top coat over this and sealing the project. I hope you enjoyed it, and I encourage you to find something in your basement and try and paint it. Happy creating!